السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Dear friends, as we promised last week, this session we are giving from a very beautiful and special place. We are in India, in Delhi, and at the beautiful mazar and dargah resting place of um, the Sufi saint of the 20th century, Hazrat Anayat Khan. And in the land of Akbar, the Emperor Akbar, it's only befitting to be speaking of Al-Mutakabbir, and we haven't chosen that. And just it came like that. Al-Mutakabbir, the infinite expansion of true greatness, the dynamic of ontological transcendence, the horizon that prevents the fossilization of truth. So these are the angles that I'm going to be meditating on the name Al-Mutakabbir through. So first of all, the place of the name in the sequence of names that we have already seen. Um, well, it is placed in the same verse. We are still in the same verse, Surah Al-Hashr, and it comes after Al-Aziz Al-Jabbar. And Al-Aziz Al-Jabbar Al-Mutakabbir together um, is a complete therapy of being. It is a trilogy. A trilogy, they are connected, a name calling to one another. They are connected, especially these three names. I see them as a complete therapy of being. They are therapeutical names. Well, Al-Aziz restores the dignity. So it's not just a theological ordering, it is a therapeutic cartography of the human being and the cosmos. So we said Al-Aziz protects essential dignity, and being possesses a value that does not depend on success or power. Nothing can strip away the izzah rooted in the real. That's the summary of the meaning of Al-Aziz. It protects essential dignity. Being possesses a value that does not depend on success or power. Nothing can strip away the izzah rooted in the real. Actually, visiting India and seeing how humiliated people have become, and the humiliation, not the humility, that people normalize it in the way they dress, in the way they behave, really reminds us of the trauma, transgenerational trauma that colonization left in our countries. I mean, this town, Delhi, now is very polluted, very disorganized, very. It used to be once the capital of beauty on earth. And when we say it once, we are not talking far away ago. We are talking uh, less than 200 years ago. Less than 200 years ago, like it was a stunning place of dignified people, with dignified manners. Actually, it was known that Indian people were people of more than dignity, pride. But um, the colonization and how the British, for example, traumatized these people, they destroyed the thing that they are attached to the most in front of their own eyes. They destroyed their beautiful homes. They destroyed their beautiful gardens. They and that terrorized them. Terrorism brings trauma. and they got traumatized. They got traumatized, and that stripped them away of their dignity. Well, because the dignity of the majority of people is conditioned, um, and depends on success and power and conditioned with the status, the situation. If you have a job, you are dignified. If you lose your job, you lose your dignity. If you have money, you are dignified. If you lose your money, you lose your dignity, right? If you have a status, you are dignified. If you lose your status, you lose your dignity. The majority of people are like that. The name Al Aziz, we said, repairs that. It is a therapy towards that. So it gives us that ontological, unconditional izzah that does not depend on the condition we are living. Well, Al Jabbar, we said, intervenes when that dignity has been wounded. It repairs the inner axis. It puts the bone back in place physically, psychologically, historically, spiritually. It intervenes where fracture exists. It repairs, straightens, restores the axis of being. But here a crucial question appears. What after Al Jabbar? Once repaired, what becomes of the being? If you go to a bad physician or a person who does not know how to put the thing, atel, how to say, the bondage or the thing that they put for broken bones, and they misplace it, they don't put the bones right before they force the bone back together. When you remove that 40 days later or a month later, you risk to lose your articulation. The bone will be too fixed. You know, fixation and fixing something um, could lead to rigidity. So if it remains fixed, then what once was repair becomes conservatism, rigidity. And you see, here a subtle danger arises. Repair can become attachment to the past. We repair past things. What do we repair? We don't repair things that are here. We repair things that are in the past. Uh, Sometimes losing things heals you more than repairing them. If that repair is because of deep attachment to that thing or unhealthy attachment to that thing, you understand? You have a project that is not good for you, but that you got used to it and it grew on you. You cannot part way with it, and you keep repairing it, not out of love, but out of attachment to that project. Or you have a relationship that is toxic for you, and you keep tashbur, repairing it, and it is not healthy for you. And it's better for you to lose that, to destroy that altogether, than to keep repairing out of unhealthy attachment. Uh, Restoration can become fixation on the repaired form. That's the way. And this is exactly where Al-Mutakabbir comes in. Greatness in infinite expansion. Permanent ontological openness. The horizon that prevents fixation. Al-Mutakabbir. It comes to prevent fixation. It opens toward expansion, toward transformation, toward ever wider horizons. Repair is healthy only if it leads to transformation. You can write this on your fridge. It's good on your fridge because fridge and rigidity is, you see, fridge is, you want to keep things the way they are, but the fridge of our mind as well, repair is healthy only if it leads to transformation. I'm ready to repair relationship with you if the unhealthy pattern that once was, that used to be there, is going to stop. If there will be a transformation, then I'm ready to repair the relationship with you. If there won't be transformation, and we'll just go back to where we were, then no. You understand? Repair is only good and is healthy only if it leads to transformation. Al-Mutakabbir is preventing the fossilization of the living. Al-Mutakabbir introduces a fundamental principle. Nothing living can remain fixed without dying. Nothing living can remain fixed without dying. Therefore, a repaired identity must evolve. A repaired identity must evolve. If stagnates, it dies. A restored civilization must transform. A healed consciousness must expand. Otherwise, healing becomes conservatism, memory becomes a prison, fidelity becomes fear of evolution, fear of life, fear of nature. So maybe what is we are used to al-mutakabbir as someone who's arrogant, someone. Well, like all the words, they have original meaning, and after that there is a distortion of meaning. So the cure is to go back to the origin, and that's why linguistics are very beautiful and very important. So let's go to the root. So there is this root which is kabara. Kabara, kabura, three letters, K, B, and R, kabara, kaf, ba, ra. The root kabura does not simply mean to be great. It means to become greater, to grow, to surpass a limit, to enter a vast space of existence, to transform toward greater ontological amplitude. In the divine, it means infinite living greatness. When that verb is connected to the human now, it can mean growth and expansion, but also it can become arrogance if frozen. If you stop growing at some point and you freeze you freeze your consciousness on or in a state of projection that you have about yourself that you are great, while you are not actually growing, you are not allowing yourself to become greater, to grow. So here I need to, I know majority of you are not specialists, and this is a very, very, very subtlety that I'm going to bring now in the language, in the Quranic language, but I believe it is important, and I won't feel fulfilled if I don't bring it here. So I'll try to bring it simply, as simple as I can. So there are two words in the Quran coming from the same root, which is kabara or kabura. One of them is takabbur. hmm? The word al-mutakabbir is coming from takabbur. The name of God Al-Mutakabbir is coming from takabbur. And the other one is istikbar. Istikbar. Coming from istakbara, from a different verb, a different form. So there is takabbara, tafa'ala, and istakbara, istafa'ala. And we know that the forms of verbs in Arabic, they give different meanings. So takabbara means to take part into a process of growth. So to, like tafattaha, like takabbara, tafattaha, tanazzafa, you you get involved, you engage yourself in a process of expansion. That's what takabbur is literally. And that is not something wrong or something bad. Actually, it is a good quality for the aql. You need your aql to expand. You need to expand your horizons. While istakbara mm, means to pretend something, pretend greatness. So takabbur versus istikbar, the battle between real growth and imaginary greatness. Takabbur is real growth, inner transformation, expansion of the capacity to be, the ability to embrace what is wider than oneself. It is an organic movement, like the growth of a tree. Al istikbar is defensive greatness, the need to appear great, refusal to be transformed. Actually, Al Mustakbir refusal to be transformed, refusal to learn, thinks superior, thinks of themselves superior to something, refusal to be surpassed by truth. It is a shell, not a growth. Now, you may tell me, well, there are two verses in the Quran where takabbur is mentioned negatively. So all the verses where istakbar is mentioned are negative. But for in the Quran, we have the verse Al-Mutakabbir, which is positive. It is a divine name. But we have for Fir'aun تكبر بغير الحق. And we have for Shaitan ما كان لك أن تتكبر فيها. And we have another verse كذلك يطبع الله على كل قلب متكبر جبار. These are the exceptions. So some people, they said, well, takabbur, if it is attributed to God, it is good. If it is attributed to human, it is bad. Because at-takabbur is only befitting of God. Well, no. The Prophet is telling us, تخلقوا بأخلاق الله. The Prophet is telling us to incarnate the divine names, the divine qualities and attributes. Not only to see their manifestations, but to incarnate them. So there must be something positive in Mutakabbir. We don't have a divine name Al-Mustakbir. You see? That's purely negative. You see all the verses in the Quran, istakbar, 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 وهو قوم بغير الحق mustakbir. All of them are negative. Takabbur, if Al-Mutakabbir is a divine name, that it cannot be purely negative. We can understand there is a light and a shadow, like of all the names, but it cannot be only dark. Like Al-Mustakbir is only dark, doesn't have any light. Al-Istikbar doesn't have any light. But At-Takabbur, I would say, is primordially light. And exceptionally, you see, there is a shadow. And that's if you go to these two verses where takabbur was mentioned negative, there are only two places. So the first one is um, in verse in Surah Ghafir, verse 35. Surah 40, verse 35, when the divine intelligence is speaking to our consciousness and giving us, teaching us a sunnah, a cosmic sunnah, a cosmic law, a divine law, a cosmic law. كذلك يطبع الله على كل قلب متكبر جبار. Okay, all the hearts that are متكبر جبار, they will be sealed to truth, of course. They are متكبر جبار. We'll see there are two nuances in this verse. The first nuance, that متكبر here is negative and Jabbar here is negative. Why? Mutakabbir is mentioned before Jabbar, while in the verse of the divine names, Al-Mutakabbir is mentioned after Al-Jabbar. This is not a game. This is science. We will see it. So let me go back first of all to Jabbar and Anid and understand that Al-Mutakabbir, first of all, I jump to the next chapter before, before saying that how Al-Mutakabbir is actually a repair to the shadow of Al-Jabbar, like Al-Jabbar was a repair to the shadow of Al-Aziz, etc. Each name corrects the name that comes before, or more precisely, it corrects the incarnation or the misincarnation of the name before. So what is the shadow of Al-Jabbar? We saw that the shadow of Al-Jabbar is Anid. What is Anid? We say Anid is narcissistic closure. The Anid is the one who is satisfied and contented what he has عنده. He has what he has عنده. أوتيته على علم عندي, says Qarun. So whatever he has عند نفسه, he's contented with that. So when repair becomes fear of expansion, when repair becomes fear of expansion, the person becomes anid, resistant to evolution, content with what they already know, self-referential, refusing all otherness. They become unyielding, but in the wrong sense. Irreductible, but in the wrong sense. Al-Mutakabbir is the healing of Anid, of this shadow of Jabbar. It introduces permanent expansion, opening of horizons, the impossibility of freezing truth. It says, you are not finished. You are not done. There are more wider horizons. There are greater things. There are greater stations. There are bigger missions awaiting you. You are not finished. Don't think of yourself great already. Ukbur, takabbar. So now let us go to the verses where takabbur were mentioned negatively. One of them is verse 7:13, And when the divine intelligence spoke to Shaitan's consciousness and to our consciousness through that event, telling him ما كان لك أن تتكبر فيها فاخرج منها. You cannot stay here. You have to go out because you cannot تتكبر فيها. So many people, the common translation is, you cannot stay here because you are arrogant and this place is only for humble people. Well, I got another meaning, which is, you cannot stay here because you are refusing expansion. Everyone else in this place is expanding. Every other consciousness in this place, the paradise, Al Jannah, is expanding. And while you do not want to expand, you think of yourself great already. You froze yourself. You fossilized yourself in a projection of yourself that you are great enough. Fixated yourself in a projection about yourself that you are great enough. So ما كان لك أن تتكبر فيها. So it's useless for you to stay in this space you are not using. It's useless for you to stay in this space that is only for consciousness that want to expand, that want to tatakabbar. You can't. You deprived yourself of that privilege. You deprived yourself of that tool. You deprived yourself of that ability. You deprived yourself of that knowledge of takabbur, of expanding. Why? Because you became arrogant. Because you thought yourself great already. You thought that you are finished already. أنا خير منه. I'm better than everyone else. You see? So this is the meaning. I don't know if it is there in any book, but that's the meaning that comes to me, and that reconciles me with the positive meaning of al-mutakabbir, because I cannot accept that something can only be positive when it is attributed to God, but if it is attributed to someone else, it is negative. Doesn't make any sense for me. So the possible spiritual reading of verse 7:13, Al-A'raf, 7, Surah 7, Surah Al-A'raf, verse 13, the fall is not merely a punishment. It is loss of the privilege of ontological expansion, passage from growth to stagnation to decline. If you stop growing and you stagnate, well, you are going to decline, of course. And Jannah is not a place of stagnation, it is a place of expansion. Therefore, you have no place in it. Some relationships are Jannah. A relationship with a spiritual teacher is a Jannah. You are not there to stay small. You are not there to stay rigid. You are not there to think of yourself better than everyone else and be contented with what you have learned already. You are there to grow, to expand. And if you cannot tatakabbar anymore, if you cannot engage in that process of expansion anymore, then it's useless for you. This Jannatul Arif becomes useless for you. Yeah, you see? Says Ahmad Al-Alawi, جنتي محض نعيم وجنى الجنان دان محبي فيها مقيم بين حور وولدان. We are here in a Jannah of this Arif. And it is a place of takabbur, a place of expansion, right? So for me, takabbur is always good. It cannot be evil unless, in this verse, so it is good actually. So the reading I gave, that no, takabbur here is not negative at all. It's actually positive, and it is actually the condition to stay in Jannah. You need to be mutakabbir, you need an tatakabbar to stay in Jannah because it is the place of takabbur. Not arrogance, it is the place of expansion. It is the place of infinite expansion and growth. You saw that's what Jannah is. It's not stagnation in one state. It is The expansion with no spiritual expansions with no limit. Mm. So when consciousness ceases to expand, it begins to contract. And that's what happened to Iblis. When his consciousness ceased to expand and refused to expand because of arrogance, because of self-contentment, it it began to contract, and that's al-hubut, that's the decline, that's go down. Cannot stay here, go down. Mm. Now the other verse where Mutakabbir is mentioned or referred to as a negative thing, it's not just Mutakabbir that is mentioned, it is mentioned after the name Jabbar. Like in the verse we are studying, which is the opposite. Al-Mutakabbir, it's mentioned actually before the name Jabbar. Unlike the verse that we are studying where Al-Mutakabbir is mentioned after the name Al-Jabbar. So the order in which the two names are placed together is crucial. We do not obtain the same result if we say Mutakabbir Jabbar or the reverse. So there is a living sequence, first of all. The living sequence is what we are studying in this verse. Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir. Even for the human being, if you realize the name, the divine name, Al-Jabbar in you, and after that you become Mutakabbir, then that's healthy. And I will say how. So, Al-Jabbar, repair, then grow, healthy. Heal, then evolve, healthy. Straighten, then transform, healthy. Repair prepares metamorphosis, healthy. Al-Mutakabbir addresses and corrects the shadow of Al-Jabbar, healthy. Now, the pathological sequence is Mutakabbir Jabbar. قلب متكبر جبار. And that's the verse 40, 35. Surah Ghafir, verse 35. I'm going to give a symbolic reading of that verse. So, قلب متكبر جبار. It is the qalb that seeks greatness in order to dominate after. It grows to dominate. And wait, he did not say عقل متكبر جبار. No, he said qalb. Qalb is the place of what? Feeling. So, if a feeling of greatness in order to dominate, if a feeling of growth or expansion in order to construct an image, then protect that image. With Al-Jabbar. You construct an image with Mutakabbir, and then you keep repairing and protecting that image of yourself, that false projection, with all your means. We see that people like, no, I'm still great. Refusing critiques, refusing advice, refusing. All the doctors are wrong. Everyone is wrong. I don't know. I'm great. And actually, it will use all the means, that kind of consciousness, to maintain the image of greatness. You see? So it becomes repairing the illusion of the self. One repairs the illusion of one's own greatness. Al-Jabbar, repair of one's own greatness or illusion of one's own greatness is Mutakabbir. Only the shadow is developed here. The trap is immense. One no longer seeks truth. One seeks to maintain the image of greatness. One becomes dependent on external gaze, inwardly fragile, obsessed with reputation, in constant ego maintenance. Al-Jabbar cannot address or correct the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. That's why. While Al-Mutakabbir is able to correct the shadow of Al-Jabbar. You are following me? Al-Mutakabbir is able to correct the shadow of Al-Jabbar, but Al-Jabbar cannot address or correct the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. What is the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir? The shadow of Al-Mutakabbir is what we mentioned here is l'illusion de grandeur, self-illusion, illusion of self-greatness. That is the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. Al-Jabbar, if we put Al-Jabbar after after the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir, follow me, it's easy, it's easy. We have the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir, not the light. Let us put Al-Jabbar after the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. It will just keep repairing that illusion. Every time someone comes and try to break through that illusion, you'll keep, you repair yourself. You'll keep, you'll keep, you'll keep making bondage and bondage and bondage around yourself to you mummify yourself and to protect and patch up your ego and protect that illusion. You see the order? So, what is the name that will be called to correct the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir? Yalla, let me take a break quickly. Give me some answers. There is only one answer. But what is the name? If you have followed the past sessions? Yeah, yes, yes, now. What is the name that is meant to repair then the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir? Al-Khaliq. Al-Khaliq. We'll see why. We'll see why Al-Khaliq is there to repair the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. Al-Mutakabbir calls ontologically for Al-Khaliq to correct its shadow, huh? And to repair the misincarnation of that name by some people. Okay? So we said we are here in the land of India, and it is the land of this great man called Akbar. And we are about to start tomorrow, actually, after tomorrow, we are going to start a pilgrimage with most beautiful friend, Pirzia, and some friends on the footsteps of Akbar. And Akbar is the personality that impacted my consciousness, I would say, the most. It is the first king that had universal thinking that I was addressed to. I said, oh, wow, this is great. This is great that in his funeral, all religious people from all religions they went, and in his court he had counselors from all religions, and he made them all equal. I said, oh, this is was maybe 15 when I heard about Akbar, and since then it stirred something in me. So it is very special for me to be visiting, to have this pilgrimage of Akbar, and more special with an inheritor of that legacy. So the way I resume the life of Akbar, Akbar is a historical figure symbolically illustrates non-tyrannical greatness, at least at the end of his life. Akbar did not seek greatness solely through territorial conquest. He did territorial conquest like all emperors did, but his greatness manifested through something else. Because other emperors, they had much bigger empires, but somehow they only him is known, still known as Akbar. And they believe he deserves that name because of his spiritual openness. Because of his spiritual openness, he organized dialogues between spiritual traditions, political and spiritual universality. He understood that a stable empire is not built on uniformity, but on the capacity to embrace plurality. He transcended identity. He sought to become greater than his strict religious identity, not by denying it, but by opening it. So Akbar is a spiritual symbol. The historical figure of Akbar symbolically embodies greatness of soul, spiritual universality, transcending closed identities, greatness equal, therefore, the capacity to embrace what is wider than oneself. Greatness, therefore, is defined as the capacity to embrace what is wider than oneself. And Akbar becomes there an archetype. True greatness is not territorial expansion. True greatness is expansion of consciousness. To be Akbar is to become wider than one's fears, wider than one's conditionings, wider than narrow belongings. This universe is becoming Akbar and Akbar and Akbar every day. The cosmic dimension of Al-Mutakabbir, the infinite expansion of the real. The divine says, خَلَقْنَا السَّمَاءَ بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. This universe is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. It is still expanding. So, uh, uh, nothing is fixed. Everything is transcendence. Al-Mutakabbir is the name of the expansion of reality itself. Universe in expansion, consciousness in expansion, meaning in expansion. Nothing is closed. Everything is becoming. We'll see that Al-Khalaq means the becoming. We'll see it. So everything is becoming. Don't bother yourself with that comment on Al-Khalaq for now. Next week we'll see it properly, inshallah. Speaking of Akbar, we must speak of Allahu Akbar. I have a story with Allahu Akbar. And I said it many times. When I was with the Sufis, with Sidda Shaykh Qasim, Qadsallahu Ruha, and in that group of, in which I grew, and very, very positive things I have learned there. Very thankful, not nostalgic at all, but very, very thankful for all, but not nostalgic at all. When I was in that group, I understood the meaning of Allahu Akbar for the first time. It entered my heart. Allahu Akbar. But it was only the Allah of our tariqah. That taste somehow in my mind was only accessible for the people of the tariqah. And then the expansion led me to meet my second, I would say, not sheikh, but a teacher, not in the Sufi meaning of being sheikh, but a teacher of mine and a very beautiful friend and companion of the road, Habib Omar bin Hafiz. And then Allahu Akbar reached a higher horizon, and I felt that taste is for Muslims because the greatness of Islam. So with Sayyidina Shaykh Bil Qasim, I tasted the greatness of Sufism, Tasawwuf. With Habib Umar, I tasted the greatness of La ilaha illallah, the greatness Muhammadun Rasulullah, especially. La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, especially. The greatness of Al-Islam as a religion, as a tradition. And then I kept expanding myself, and if it is Akbar, it needs to be Akbar than all of that. It needs to be bigger and greater than all of that. It needs to be a taste that is there for everyone, not only for Muslims. So Allahu Akbar is the pedagogy of the living infinite. Spiritually, Allahu Akbar can be heard as God is always greater than the image I have of God. God is always vaster than the theology I understand. God is always more real than my concepts of God. Allahu Akbar as a process now. Each repetition of Allahu Akbar, and that's what the Salat is about. We have 17 Allahu Akbar uh, in one full Salat. You have in one full Salat you have seven. In one rak'ah, in one cycle you have seven. So Allahu Akbar is a process. Each repetition becomes the demolition of a mental idol, the opening of a horizon, the widening of the heart. Allahu Akbar is a protection against spiritual idolatry. The greatest spiritual danger is not atheism, it is believing that we have definitively understood God. The greatest spiritual danger is not atheism, it is believing that we have definitely contained, understood God. Allahu Akbar destroys that. And here I must add subtlety. I had a discussion with my niece, and I was telling her that the golden rule about Sharia is that you must understand the why of that rule. There is no such a thing as I pray because God said. I pray this way because God said. I pray in this time just because God said it should be like that. I said, no. For me, the Sharia, even in its ritualistic perspective, there must be a clear reason that the aql understands. And if you don't understand it, don't do it until you understand it. It must be. And then she said, oh, but that negates Allahu Akbar. Because Allahu Akbar for me, no, who am I? I'm just a simple human being. I just need to obey. But listen, anyone in any religious place can do the same thing. Why you are blaming people are prostrating to cows and who are why you are it's the same thing. It's Akbar. Why you are blaming people who said God is three in one? The same thing for you. They tell you, listen, I'm a simple peasant. I'm not a theologian. They said, I will follow. Allahu Akbar. It's the same thing in that way. All the religious people are saying Allahu Akbar in that way. God is bigger than my understanding in that way. That's not the place of Allahu Akbar. Not in the Sharia. No, 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 no. The Sharia is a way, is a path. Every footstep is a choice, and you can only make a choice when you understand why you should make that choice. Otherwise, it's not choice. Otherwise, it is a waste of a human life. It is a waste of the breath of God. You are only given that breath, that intelligence to be able to choose. That's the privilege that we are given. Mm. So where Allahu Akbar plays, she told me, it all plays in Qadar. When it comes to destiny, when it comes to ghaib, when it comes to future, when it comes to your plans, all what you have planned being destroyed and new things appear, new plans come, things happen in a way that you haven't planned for. There comes Allahu Akbar. There comes Allahu Akbar. So we shouldn't believe that we have definitely understood God and the way God makes things. Allahu Akbar is a pedagogy of knowledge as well. To say Allahu Akbar is to accept that my current understanding is not final. My current vision is not total. My relationship with the divine must continue to grow. Allahu Akbar. Pedagogy of the infinite. Each repetition can be lived as the divine surpasses every image, the real surpasses every thought. Our knowledge must always grow. The summer. So, how are we going to translate Al-Mutakabbir ontologically? Unity of what and force of what? many possibilities, but what I would suggest is that Al-Mutakabbir, I will translate it as the unity of infinite greatness. The unity of infinite greatness. So wherever you see greatness in this world, beautiful, unity of ongoing expansion. I actually put that as force. But yeah. Yeah, I said unity of infinite greatness. Unity of infinite greatness. There is an infinite greatness. You see it. And some people in the sun, in the moon, in the mountain, and it's a unity. The mountain is not mutakabbir versus the sun. The sun is not mutakabbir versus the mountain. They're all mutakabbir together in al-mutakabbir. So if you are expanding by God, if you are great by God, then that's good mutakabbir. Not if you are against God, that's something else. That's an illusion. That's istikbar. That's not real takabbur. There is no growth outside of the source of life and the growth outside of the Rabb. How are you going to grow? It will be just an illusion, istikbar. Mm. And makr, illusion. Mm. Actually, in the Quran, istikbar and makr are mentioned istikbaran or makr sayyi. Makr means sihr, illusion. Mm. Now, it is also the force of limitless expansion. We need that force of limitless expansion to keep expanding, huh? To keep expanding. Force of growing beyond limits. So, Al-Mutakabbir is the greatness that prevents closure, the expansion that prevents rigidity, the transcendence that prevents mental idolatry, the horizon that prevents the fossilization of truth. Al-Mutakabbir is the greatness that prevents closure, the expansion that prevents rigidity, the transcendence that prevents mental idolatry, the horizon that prevents the fossilization of truth. Al-Mutakabbir is the greatness that prevents idolatry of the self, the horizon that surpasses every certainty. A closing word. The false Jabbar wants to freeze. The false Mutakabbir wants to dominate. The true Jabbar wants to heal. The true Mutakabbir opens horizons. Repair without expansion becomes conservatism. Expansion without the truth becomes domination. Al-Mutakabbir is expansion in haqq, in truth. Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar is the permanent call never to imprison the divine in that illusion of mind. I'm not going to imprison the divine in that projection of mind or in that illusion of mind. Never to imprison the divine within what we believe we have understood. The divine is always greater, and our heart is called to become ever more vast. How does that feel? How do you feel after this presentation? I said these three names I will have to lead a healing meditation for, and I know I went beyond the time and said after with Al Khaliq will go shorter again. It won't be the same thing. But these three names, I have actually written something about them, and I hope that I can publish a book one day about the trilogy of healing, therapeutical, and how to recover Izzah. Uh, these are the crises. Our crisis as Muslim Ummah is we lost the Izzah and the force of healing and the capacity to expand. And we have the shadow of each. We have the shadow of Izzah, the shadow of Al-Jabbar, and the shadow of Al-Mutakabbir. So if you don't mind, we can I don't know if you can open the room for our French friends already and tell them to bear with us for another 10 minutes. We must do this meditation. But please, let it be a meditation. Please give yourself to it. Give yourself to it, please. Uh, If you haven't opened your camera yet, please do. And if you are listening while walking and you can sit, please sit. If you are driving your car while listening, please find a place where to stop and give yourself these 5 minutes of expansion, of takabbur. We'll meditate on the infinite that breathes, the real that opens without end, and the heart that contains the worlds. Imam Ali, alayhi salamullah, says, وَتَحْسَبُ أَنَّكَ جُرْمٌ صَغِيرٌ وَفِيكَ انطوى العالم الأكبر. You think that you are a small body, disconnected from the whole, while in you is folded the great universe. So, my dear friends, gently enter into silence, not external silence, the silence behind thoughts, the silence behind identity, the silence even behind the idea of you, the silence from where we came and to where we are going, the divine silence. Breathe now. Breathe deeply. Take another breath. And while breathing, allow a subtle intuition. What if the real were not first of all a space, but a living heart? A heart that does not beat in time, a heart that beats existence itself. Now feel not you who are breathing, but feel the existence breathing through you. You are the lungs of this universe. expansion, then contraction, expansion, contraction. Imagine with each expansion, the birth of worlds, the birth of consciousness, the birth of possibilities. And with each contraction, a return to the mystery, a return to the origin, a return to primordial silence. Just breathe 2 times in. After you expire, allow a short moment of silence. Gently contemplate while breathing in this way. Divine greatness is not static, it is generative, creative, always surpassing itself in manifestation. Not because it lacks anything, but because the infinite overflows by nature. Very softly, inspire Allah, expire. Ak- Feel existence opens once more. The real becomes even more vast. The cosmic heart contains still more worlds. Now turn your attention to your heart. Feel your heart, not only the organ, the center of perception, the place of lived experience, and allow this possibility. Your heart is not separate from the cosmic heart. It is a miniature gateway, a living mirror, an echo chamber of the cosmic heart. Feel your heartbeat while breathing. Tell yourself, this is not my heart. This is the cosmic heart. This is the heart of the universe. When your heart expands, it becomes capable of containing more humanity, more contradiction, more mystery, more unconditional love, like what Shaykh Al-Akbar says. قد صار قلبي يعشق كل صورة. My heart has become a lover of all images that can accept everything, can embrace all contradictions. This is not weakness, it is participation in Al-Mutakabbir, divine greatness, crushes nothing, erases nothing, excludes nothing. It contains, it opens, it allows things to exist more fully. Now imagine looking at the world from a heart vast enough to contain joy and suffering, birth and disappearance, innocence and human confusion, without judgment, without closure, without fear. Look at the world from that heart, vast enough to contain joy and suffering, birth and disappearance, innocence and human confusion, without a judgment, without closure, without fear. And now allow this to appear. There is no final point in divine greatness, no final revelation of the real, no ultimate understanding, no limit to openness. The infinite that refuses to be enclosed. Al-Mutakabbir. Ya, ya Mutakabbir, ya Mutakabbir. It is natural to be afraid of losing reference points, of losing certainties, of losing fixed identities. Breathe into that fear. Breathe into that fear to dissolve it. It is the fear of immensity. Gently allow this to arise now. Immensity is not against you, it carries you. It is your essence. Inwardly, I do not need to be immense. I can become available to the immense. Say inwardly, I do not need to be immense. I can become available to the immense. I can become a space where the real can expand. Al-Mutakabbir, unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion, unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion, unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion, unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion. Keep repeating. Unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion. Feel the weight of the words. Unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion. Keep repeating. Unity of infinite greatness, force of limitless expansion. Feel the weight of the words. Then let the words disappear. Remain in that space. Now, from the cosmic heart, Pray. O you whose greatness knows neither edge nor end, expand within us the capacity to contain the world without judging it. Expand within us the capacity to love without possessing. Expand within us the capacity to see without reducing. Make of our hearts tiny echoes of the cosmic heart. Teach us the gentleness of the infinite, the trust of openness, the peace of endless expansion. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Existence opens again and again and again. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allah, Allah. If you want a dhikr for Al-Mutakabbir, it is Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. It is dhikr for Al-Mutakabbir. Now, if you want to make the dhikr of Ya Mutakabbir, it should be one time, three times, only conscious of the meaning. It's not a name that you can call upon because it is a call for action. Thank you, my dear friends. We spoke about Akbar, and I did not mention the part in which I was speaking of a Shaykh al-Akbar as well. Muhyiddin bin Arabi, his name was a Shaykh al-Akbar. Subhanallah. He was Akbar in that way as well. So I hope you have good idea now and better idea and mostly a higher opinion of God now after knowing his name or its name or her name or their name, Al-Mutakabbir, beyond all identities. Thank you, my dear friends, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.